The fluorescent lights in the hospital waiting room buzzed like angry wasps. 3:47 a.m. I'd been sitting in this plastic chair for 2 hours, my hands shaking every time the ER doors swung open. My son, my 10-year-old boy, was somewhere beyond those doors with a concussion and a broken arm. And I was out here, a stranger in my own child's emergency, because the nurse had looked at her clipboard and said those words that still echo in my skull. "Are you listed as the emergency contact?" "No? I'm sorry, but we can only discuss the patient's condition with..." She'd glanced at her notes. "With the mother. Sarah Mitchell." "Is she here yet?" "Mitchell, not Chen." My ex-wife had taken back her maiden name. Our kids still had my name, but apparently that meant nothing when it came to sitting by my son's bedside while he cried for his dad. I'd driven 90 miles an hour from Portland when Sarah's text came through at 1:30 a.m. Just 4 words. "Hospital, Daniel, come now." That was it. No details. No acknowledgement that she hadn't let me see the kids in 6 months. No explanation for why she'd moved them to Eugene without telling me, violating our temporary custody agreement. Just those 4 words, and I'd grabbed my keys and driven through the night like a man possessed. Now I was here and she wasn't. Traffic, probably. Or maybe she just didn't care enough to break the speed limit for our son. The worst part? This moment, sitting helpless in a waiting room at 4 a.m., was exactly where my life had been heading for months. I just hadn't seen it coming. 6 months ago, I was Marcus Chen, lead architect at Belmont and Associates, 15 years with the company, just promoted to junior partner. I had a drafting table covered in blueprints for a sustainable housing development that was going to change how we thought about urban living. I had a wife who used to leave me notes in my lunch bag. I had 2 kids who drew pictures of our family with all of us holding hands, even the dog. Then the firm announced bankruptcy. Not downsizing, not restructuring, complete liquidation. 15 years of work, gone in a conference room meeting that lasted 12 minutes. Our senior partner had made some bad investments during the pandemic, leveraged properties that tanked, and took down the whole firm with him. We'd all trusted him, believed him when he said we were recession-proof. I'd called Sarah from the parking lot, my hands numb on the steering wheel. "The firm's done," I told her. "I'm out of a job." Her silence lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, "I can't do this anymore, Marcus. I'll find something else. I've got connections. The Morrison Project wants me. They've been trying to poach me for. It's not about the job." Her voice sounded tired. "Dead. You're never here, Marcus. You haven't been here for years. That's not fair. I was building our future. The partnership was going to. Daniel asked me last week if you still lived with us. That stopped me." "What?" "He asked if you still lived with us, because he only sees you at breakfast, and half the time you're on your phone with contractors. Emma stopped drawing pictures of you. Did you notice? She draws the 3 of us now, you, me, and Daniel. But not you. Sarah, let me come home. We can talk about this. My lawyer will send the papers. I'm filing tomorrow." Then, softer, "My mother was right about you. You love your work more than you love us." The line went dead. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of lawyers and mediation and temporary custody arrangements that kept getting postponed by Sarah's attorney. 6 months of calling my kids and getting sent to voicemail. 6 months of driving past my own house, the house I designed, with the play structure I built in the backyard, and seeing another man's truck in the driveway. I'd found out about him through Facebook, of all things. Sarah's mother had posted a photo. My beautiful daughter and her friend Michael, enjoying a lovely Sunday brunch. The comments were full of heart emojis, and "you two look so happy together." My own mother-in-law, celebrating my replacement before the divorce was even finalized. The ER doors opened again. An elderly woman shuffled out, her cardigan buttoned wrong, her white hair uncombed. She looked like she'd gotten dressed in the dark and rushed here. Her eyes swept the waiting room, landing on me, and something in her expression shifted. Recognition, maybe, or pity. She sat down 2 chairs away. Close enough to talk, far enough to be polite. We sat in silence for a few minutes. The TV mounted in the corner played some infomercial with the sound off. A tired-looking janitor mopped the far corner of the room, his earbuds in, lost in his own world. "Your son?" the woman finally asked, her voice rough from crying or maybe just from being 70-something years old and awake at 4 a.m. I nodded, didn't trust my voice. "Car accident? Skateboarding?" I cleared my throat. He was doing tricks in a parking lot. At night. Because apparently that's what my kid does now, and I don't even know about it because... I stopped. "You don't unload your life story on strangers in hospital waiting rooms." But she just nodded, like she understood everything I hadn't said. "They won't let you see him." It wasn't a question. "I'm not on the contact list." The words tasted like ash. The nurse said only the mother can authorize bureaucracy. She said it like a curse word. They have all these rules about who's allowed to care. Like love is something you can put on a checklist. I looked at her properly then. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands twisted together in her lap. She wore a wedding ring, but the way she touched it, spinning it around her finger, spoke of habit rather than companionship. "Your husband?" I asked. "Granddaughter. Lily. She's 16. The woman's voice cracked. "Suicide attempt. Pills. Her mother, my daughter, found her 2 hours ago." "God. I'm so sorry. They won't let me see her either. Hospital policy. Only parents." She laughed, bitter. "Claire, my daughter, she's in there now, screaming at the doctors about how this is everyone's fault but hers. But I know the truth. I know why Lily did this. I should have stayed quiet. Should have let this stranger keep her pain to herself. But something in her eyes, in the way she looked at me like she was seeing her younger self, made me ask, why? Because Claire became me." She turned in her seat, facing me fully. "I'm Eleanor Price. And 40 years ago, I lost my daughter the same way you're losing your son right now." The words hit like a physical blow. "I'm not. Let me tell you something, young man. You look exactly like my ex-husband did the night Claire left. Same eyes. Same way of holding yourself, like you're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to fall apart." Eleanor's hands tightened on her purse. "How old is your boy?" 10. Claire was 11 when her father and I divorced. Sweet kid. Made straight A's. Played violin. Collected rocks from every place we traveled. Her voice went distant. "I was a corporate lawyer, partner at a firm in Seattle. Worked 70, 80 hours a week. Told myself I was doing it for my family, for Claire's future. Private schools, college fund, the best of everything. There's nothing wrong with providing for your family," I said, defensive. "No, there's not." Eleanor met my eyes. "But there's something very wrong with using providing as an excuse for absence. My husband, Claire's father, he tried to tell me, said I was missing her childhood, missing her orchestra concerts, her science fairs, her birthdays. I'd show up late or not at all, and I always had a reason. A client emergency, a court date, a deposition that couldn't be rescheduled." The janitor had moved closer, mopping near our section. I could smell the sharp tang of disinfectant. "The divorce was ugly," Eleanor continued. "I fought for custody because that's what you do. You fight to keep your child. But I wasn't fighting for Claire. I was fighting to win. To prove I was the better parent. To prove my career hadn't cost me everything. Did you win? Joint custody. Weekends and holidays. I thought that was enough. I thought I could still be a good mother in the margins of my career." She pulled a tissue from her purse, dabbed at her eyes. "Claire turned 18 and disappeared. Changed her name. Blocked my number. I didn't hear from her for 23 years. 23. I couldn't imagine. Couldn't conceive of that kind of silence. I hired investigators. Private detectives. I called every lead, chased every rumor. Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to find my own daughter. And you know what I learned?" Eleanor's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She didn't want to be found. She'd built a whole new life, and I wasn't in it. But you found her. Eventually. She found me, 5 weeks ago, called me out of the blue and said, "Mom, I need you. Lily's in trouble." Eleanor's laugh was broken. 23 years of silence, and she calls when she needs something. That's all I was to her. The person who shows up when there's an emergency. The person who solves problems. not the person who was there for bedtime stories or skinned knees or first heartbreaks. I thought about Daniel's concussion, about the text message from Sarah, about how I'd driven 90 miles an hour because she'd summoned me, and I'd come running like a trained dog. What kind of trouble, I asked. The kind that comes from repeating your mother's mistakes. Eleanor twisted the tissue in her hands. Claire did exactly what I did. Built a career in finance, worked constantly. Left Lily with nannies and after-school programs and summer camps. Told herself she was being a good mother because she could afford the best schools, the best everything. And Lily. She paused, breathing hard. Lily started cutting herself when she was 13. Claire didn't notice until a teacher called. Then there were the eating disorders, the depression, the anxiety, and tonight, the pills. That's not your fault, isn't it? Eleanor looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. I taught Claire that work matters more than presence, that success is measured in billable hours and corner offices, that being there is less important than providing, and she taught Lily the same lesson. Except Lily learned it too well. She learned that she's not worth showing up for. The ER doors opened. A nurse came out, looking around, then walked toward Eleanor. Mrs. Price? Your granddaughter is stable. The doctor wants to speak with you and Claire. Eleanor stood slowly, like her bones hurt. Before she followed the nurse, she turned back to me. Her hand reached out, gripped my shoulder. Don't be me, she said. Don't be Claire. Don't spend 40 years searching for something you threw away when you had it in your hands. I didn't throw away. Your son is in there. Eleanor pointed at the ER doors. He's hurt, he's scared. And you're out here because someone decided you weren't present enough to matter. Because your name isn't on the right form. Because you weren't there enough to be the first call. Her grip tightened. But here's the thing, you're here now. You drove through the night. You're sitting in this horrible waiting room at 4 a.m. Do you know why? I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Eleanor leaned close, and I could smell her perfume, something floral and old-fashioned. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but the words hit like a hammer. Don't outsource love to tomorrow. Then she was gone, following the nurse through those doors I couldn't pass through. The waiting room felt cavernous without her. The TV droned on. The janitor finished mopping and pushed his cart away, wheels squeaking. Don't outsource love to tomorrow. 5 words. That's all it took to crack open something I'd been keeping sealed for 6 months, maybe longer, maybe 15 years. I pulled out my phone. 4:17 a.m. I opened my photos, scrolling back. There, Daniel's 8th birthday. I was in the photo, but I was checking my phone. Looking at blueprints, probably. Some emergency at the construction site. Daniel was blowing out his candles, and I wasn't even watching. Emma's kindergarten graduation. I'd missed it. Stuck in a meeting with investors. Sarah had texted me photos, and I'd replied with a thumbs-up emoji, like that was the same as being there. Like a thumbs-up could replace watching my daughter walk across the stage in her little cap and gown. Christmas morning, 2 years ago. The last really happy photo. We were all there, all smiling. But I remembered that day. I'd woken up at 5 a.m. to review contracts. Had my laptop open while the kids opened presents. Sarah had asked me 3 times to put it away before she finally yanked the power cord out of the wall. You're not even here, she'd said. You're physically present, but you're not here. I thought she was being dramatic, oversensitive. I was providing, building our future, making sure they had everything they needed. But what did they need? What did Daniel need when he woke up in that ER with a splitting headache and a broken arm? What did Emma need when she stopped drawing pictures of me? They needed me. Present, actually present, not checking my phone, not thinking about work, not promising this weekend or after this project or once things settle down. They needed me to show up, and I hadn't. The ER doors opened again. Sarah rushed through, her hair wild, still in her pajamas with a coat thrown over them. Her eyes were puffy from crying. She saw me and froze. Marcus. How is he? I stood up, my legs stiff from sitting. She stopped, swallowed hard. He's okay. Concussion. Broken arm. They want to keep him for observation, but he's going to be fine. Can I see him? That's not. She caught herself. Looked at me. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in months. Why are you here? You texted me. I texted you. Hospital, Daniel. Come now. I didn't think you'd actually. She trailed off. You drove from Portland. Of course I drove from Portland. He's my son. Is he? The words came out sharp, angry. Because you haven't called in 3 weeks, Marcus. You missed his birthday. You were supposed to have him last weekend, and you canceled because of some job interview in California. Every accusation landed like a punch because they were all true. I know, Sarah. But I'm here now. Now. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're always now when there's a crisis, when it's easy to be the hero. But where were you for the regular days? The homework help, the doctor's appointments, the nightmares and the skinned knees and the 1,000 tiny moments that actually matter? I was working. I was trying to what? Build us a future. Marcus, we didn't need a future. We needed you present in our actual lives. Sarah's voice cracked. My mother kept telling me. She said you'd never change, that you'd always put your career first. And I kept defending you, kept believing you'd eventually slow down, eventually be there. But you never were. Your mother. I felt something sharp twist in my gut. Your mother who's been posting photos of you and Michael all over social media. Your mother who told you to leave me before the firm even went under. Sarah's face went pale. How did you? I'm not an idiot, Sarah. I saw the dates. Your mom posting about how wonderful it is that you're finally moving on 2 weeks after you filed. Michael's truck in our driveway 3 weeks after that. The Sunday brunch photos from April when we weren't even legally separated yet. It's not. I don't care. And I realized saying it that I meant it. I don't care if you're seeing someone. I don't care if your mother orchestrated this whole thing. I don't even care about the divorce anymore. You were right. I wasn't there. I chose work over family every single time, and I told myself I was doing it for you, but I was really doing it for me, for my ego, for some bullshit idea of success that meant I could design buildings but I couldn't build a life. Sarah stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. But here's what I do care about, I continued. Daniel is in there. Emma is at home, probably scared out of her mind because her mom disappeared in the middle of the night. And I'm standing out here because my name isn't on the right piece of paper. Because I wasn't present enough to earn the right to sit by my son's bedside. Marcus, let me see him. Please. Not as your husband. Not as someone who has rights or legal standing. Just as Daniel's father. Let me be there for him this one time. Sarah's eyes were wet. She looked exhausted, defeated. My mother said, I don't care what your mother said. This isn't about her. This isn't about us. This is about Daniel. She stood there for a long moment, and I could see the war happening behind her eyes. Every piece of advice her mother had given her, every lawyer's warning, every moment of justified anger at me for all the times I hadn't been there. Then she nodded. Just once. 10 minutes. The nurse isn't happy about it, but I told her you drove from Portland. Thank you. I followed her through those doors, into the harsh fluorescent brightness of the ER, past curtained cubicles where other people fought their own private battles, past nurses and doctors and machines that beeped and hummed. Daniel was in a corner room. He looked so small in that hospital bed, a bandage wrapped around his head, his arm in a temporary cast. His eyes were closed, but they opened when I stepped in. Dad? That one word broke something open in me. Not anger, not resentment, just pure, raw grief for everything I'd missed. Everything I'd chosen to miss. Hey, buddy. I sat in the chair next to his bed, took his good hand in mine. How you feeling? My head hurts. And my arm. His voice was small. Scared. Mom said you were coming, but I didn't think. Didn't think what? Didn't think you'd really come. You're always too busy. The accusation would have hurt less if he'd said it with anger. But there was no anger. Just resignation. The kind of resignation that comes from a child who's learned not to expect too much. I'm here, I said. I'm right here. But you'll leave again. You always leave. Daniel. Even before the divorce, you were never really there. Emma and me, we used to make up stories about you, about how you were secretly a spy, and that's why you were always working. Because that was easier than thinking you just didn't want to hang out with us. I couldn't breathe, couldn't find words that would matter. So I just held his hand and let him talk. I did the skateboard trick because Tyler said his dad taught him, and I wanted to tell you that I learned it too. But you haven't returned my calls in 3 weeks, so... He shrugged his good shoulder. I guess I was showing off. Wanted to get it on video so I could send it to you, prove I was good at something. Then I fell. I'm sorry. The words felt microscopic compared to what I owed him. Daniel, I'm so sorry. You're right. I wasn't there. I chose work over you, over Emma, over your mom. And I told myself 1,000 lies about why that was okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about it was okay. So, what's different now? He looked at me with eyes too old for 10 years. You're here because Mom called. But what about next week? What about when there's no emergency? I thought about Eleanor, about her 40 years of searching for a daughter who'd disappeared, about how she'd said, "Don't be me." I thought about Claire, repeating her mother's mistakes with her own daughter. I thought about Lily, 16 years old, swallowing pills because she'd learned that she wasn't worth showing up for. And I thought about Daniel and Emma, and about the choice I was making right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I'm not going back to Portland, I said. I'm moving here, to Eugene. Tomorrow today, I guess I'm going to start looking for an apartment, somewhere close to your mom's house, close to your school. But your job? I don't have a job. The firm went under, remember? And you know what? That's okay. Because I'm going to find work here, even if it's not architecture. Even if it's drafting for someone else's firm or teaching or working at Home Depot. I don't care. I'm going to be here. Actually here. Present for homework and doctor's appointments and skateboard tricks and all the regular days. Sarah, standing in the doorway, made a sound. I looked up and saw tears streaming down her face. You mean it? Daniel asked, his voice small. I mean it. I'm done outsourcing love to tomorrow. What does that mean? It means I'm done telling myself I'll be there next time, next weekend, after this project, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. It means I'm here now, and I'm staying here. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. But what about your buildings? You said you were going to change cities. Cities don't need me. You need me. And I'm finally smart enough to know which one matters more. He started crying then, really crying, and I moved carefully onto the edge of his hospital bed, wrapping my arms around him while he sobbed into my shoulder. Sarah came into the room, sat on Daniel's other side, and for a moment, just a moment, we were a family again. Not the family we'd been, but maybe the family we could become. Later, after Daniel fell asleep and the doctor confirmed he could go home in a few hours, Sarah and I sat in the hallway outside his room. I'm still filing for divorce, she said quietly. This doesn't change that. I know. And I'm still angry. At you, at my mother, at myself for letting her poison me against you. Your mother? Sarah sighed. She was in my ear for years. Every time you worked late, she'd say, "You see? He doesn't value you." Every missed dinner, every forgotten anniversary. She kept score, kept adding up all the ways you weren't good enough. And when the firm went under, she convinced me it was a sign, that I should cut my losses before you dragged us down with you. And Michael was a mistake, a rebound. My mother introduced us, he's her accountant, kept pushing us together, making it seem inevitable, like I was supposed to move on immediately. She looked at me. I ended it 2 weeks ago. Once I realized my mother was trying to control my life the same way she controlled my father's life before he left her. I didn't know your dad left her, because she doesn't talk about it. Rewrites history. But yeah, he left when I was 16. Said he couldn't live with someone who needed to control every aspect of his life. And I swore I'd never be like her. But then I listened to her advice about you and she trailed off. I'm not saying you weren't wrong, you were. You chose work over us constantly. But I should have talked to you instead of listening to her. Should have given you a chance to change before I ended everything. I wouldn't have changed, I admitted. Not then. Not before I lost everything. I would have promised to do better. And I would have meant it. But I wouldn't have actually changed. Because I didn't understand what I was losing. And now? Now I've spent 6 months in hell, missing my kids, watching Emma's drawings on Instagram and realizing she doesn't put me in them anymore, knowing Daniel was learning skateboard tricks and I wasn't there to see it. Now I understand. I looked at her. I met someone tonight, a woman whose daughter disappeared for 23 years because she made the same mistakes I made. And her daughter is repeating those mistakes with her own kid. This generational cycle of absence disguised as ambition. And I'm not doing that to Daniel and Emma. So what now? Now I find a place here, get a job, show up, not just when there's an emergency, not just when it's convenient, every day, even the boring days, especially the boring days. It won't fix us, Sarah said softly. The divorce is still happening. I know, and that's okay, because this isn't about fixing us. It's about being the father Daniel and Emma deserve. And if that means we co-parent as friends instead of spouses, then that's what we do. Sarah nodded slowly. I'm cutting my mother off. Not forever, but for a while, until she can respect that this is my life and my decision. She won't like that. She doesn't have to. Sarah stood up. I'm going to check on Daniel. Then I need to get home to Emma. She's with a neighbor, but she'll be terrified when she wakes up and I'm not there. Can I hesitated. Can I come? To see Emma? Tell her Daniel's okay? Sarah looked at me for a long moment. Then, yeah, you can come. It wasn't everything. It wasn't a Hollywood ending where the family reconciles and lives happily ever after. But it was a start, a real start. Not tomorrow's promise, but today's action. I followed Sarah home as the sun came up over Eugene, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The Cascade Mountains stood dark against the dawn, and I thought about Eleanor, about how she'd spent 40 years searching for what she'd thrown away, about how she'd looked at me and seen her younger self, making the same mistakes. Don't outsource love to tomorrow. 5 words, that's all she'd said. But those 5 words were changing everything. Emma was awake when we got there, sitting on the couch in her pajamas, her face streaked with tears. When she saw me walk through the door behind Sarah, her eyes went wide. Daddy? I knelt down, and she threw herself into my arms, and I held my daughter and promised her, really promised her, not with words, but with my presence, that I was here, not tomorrow, not next week, now. That was 7 years ago. I'm 63 now, and Daniel is 17, getting ready to apply to colleges. Emma is 15, still drawing pictures, and I'm in every single one. Sarah remarried 2 years ago, a good man who treats my kids with respect and doesn't try to replace me. We co-parent like champions. Her mother attends supervised visits 3 times a year, and we're all civil. I never became a famous architect. I work for a small firm here in Eugene, designing accessible housing and community centers. The pay is modest, the projects won't win awards. But I'm home for dinner every night. I coach Emma's soccer team. I taught Daniel to drive. I show up. And sometimes, on quiet nights, I think about Eleanor. About those 5 words she gave me in a hospital waiting room at 4 in the morning. I tried to find her, to thank her, but I never got her last name right. Never could track her down. But I remember her. Remember the warning in her eyes when she looked at me and saw the same path she'd walked. The same mistakes, the same priorities that led to 40 years of regret. I remember Lily too. I hope she's okay, hope she found what she needed, hope she learned that she's worth showing up for. Because that's the lesson Eleanor gave me, wrapped up in 5 words. Love isn't something you promise for tomorrow. Love is showing up today, again and again, in the boring moments and the crisis moments, and all the ordinary moments in between. Don't outsource love to tomorrow. I didn't, and it saved my life.